Hello, good evening, and welcome to Varsity Maine Live, your one-stop shopping place for all Maine high school sports. From the Press Herald, I'm Travis Lazarczyk, and tonight I'm joined by my colleague Michael Hoffer from the Forecaster, and from the Kennebec Journal and Morning Sentinel, Dave Dyer. Guys, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Our guest is the first-year coach at Biddeford High School. Before that, she was the girls' basketball coach at Mount Blue, Maranacook, and Morris, with a stop as a JV coach in Madison. In 2015, she took the Maranacook girls to the Class C state championship game, and she just got off the bus from her game at Falmouth tonight. So thank you for joining us, Jeannine Paradis.
Thank you very much for the invite.
Okay. Tonight, tough loss up at Falmouth, but before that, you'd won 3 out of 4.
Yes.
First year with the team, what are you seeing as far as improvement from your girls, and how do you feel as this weird regular season kind of comes to a close here in the next week?
Well, we're pretty fortunate. So far, we've only been unable to reschedule one game. So I think we'll be able to get at least 17 games in without having a lot of the major crunch as some other teams are right now, playing 4 games in a row like Falmouth just did. The thing about this group, this is probably the first year that I've been able to throw all kinds of different things at a group of kids and have them really absorb it and try to perfect it each day. I probably have more defense in this year in terms of different rotations and different looks and even different zone offenses where I usually used to just do 2 different ones, once against an odd even zone press and one against an even front. This year, these kids have really opened up to learning a lot of different things and accepting the fact that it's completely different for them as well. They're competitive. They go out and they compete every night. We have some great athletes, not a whole lot of basketball players. We have kids who love softball and field hockey, and they come to basketball to sometimes stay in shape for basketball, but they are always up for the challenge, and they're just an amazing group of kids to work with every day.
Jeannine, you're certainly a veteran in the coaching ranks, as Travis had mentioned your previous stops before. But with this one, I would have to assume you're a Biddeford graduate, former Biddeford player. How much does it mean to you after these years of coaching previously to have gotten this particular job and to run this particular program that you know so well?
Yes, it means a lot. It's a different experience coaching in your hometown, and I've never been able to experience that. My car gas and mileage quite appreciate the short drive home these days versus the years of traveling that I've done to coach basketball. But it's a different environment. People have been welcoming. It's been great to see old classmates and to see a lot of the kids that are coming up through the program that are daughters of former classmates or kids that I knew back in the day. But it also comes with some pressure too. It's, you sit there and you wonder in there, you have to make sure that there are certain boundaries as well. So I've been fortunate that I haven't really had to feel that pressure. But it's just been great being home.
Coach, you're in a tough region here. I know you've seen, you mentioned you just played Falmouth. We know how good they are. Brunswick
Yes.
sitting there undefeated. Greeley, as always, is a top team. What's your take on Class A South here as we get very close to the end of the regular season?
It's anybody's game. Anytime kids show up to play, like Kennebunk played us really tough the other night, and they haven't won a game. So you can't count people out. You can't overlook teams, especially if you're fighting for a certain position in the ranks in order to get to the tournament. I look at our schedule, and when I took over the position, we play a tough schedule. Every game is a tough game. We come in and we compete every night and hope that we can shoot just as well or have as many defensive stops as our opponents. We really haven't had an easy game. And a lot of teams have been like that. So the competition has been rewarding and refreshing as well. Sometimes you just continually see teams, and I've been a part of programs that have been down and have been one of those programs that are trying to rebuild. So it's just good to come onto the floor and have it be anybody's night, depending on who shows up to compete.
Coach, a couple of years ago when I was still at Central Maine, we talked about your coaching influences at University of Maine Farmington and Dick Meter's coaching tree, which
Mhm.
you're a part of. Who are some
Yes.
of the other coaches that you've become influenced by and maybe take a little from here and there?
Well, I did start out my coaching career as Tom Maine's assistant. So a lot of the basis that I have has come from years of his knowledge. And throughout the years, I've changed and tweaked some things to make them my own based on the personnel that I may have had. But, I've talked to and take things from coaches like Mike Gray, who I respect very, very much. We've battled and competed and we're great friends. Randy Hooper, who is the king of junk defenses. So back in the day at Madomic, so coaches like that. And I'm very, very thankful that on my bench sits the legendary Ron Cody.
Yeah.
So I'm getting different aspects from him in terms of how he ran his 2-2-1 press versus how I might have done it. And we just are able to have those conversations, and I can learn different ways to do things, and so can he. So I'm very fortunate and excited that I have that opportunity to be able to sit with him and coach together. So, he's a big part of that too. And of course, I've known him since high school, and I always admired him as a basketball coach. And now I get to coach with him. So it's a great feeling as well. But, Paul Vachon, even, Julie Petrie does a great job at Mount Ararat. Sometimes we female coaches have to stick together a little bit and bounce ideas off of one another. So there's quite a few. Jim Bessie was another great mind of the game that when I was at Mount Blue, I respected and would steal things from him and see if I could learn some of his tactics, because there's nobody who could sit there and watch a team play defense and then break down and know what their rules were for that defensive play better than Jim Bessie.
Jeannine, you obviously have a lot of influences, but you yourself, I've seen a lot of basketball coaching background goes back to the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yep.
in the last 20 years, and you've coached at multiple levels within the state, what have you seen within the game as far as similarities and differences over that stretch of time? Has the game seen some evolution in your time since then? What have you kind of seen during that time as far as similarities in the game to differences today?
I see it. I think it varies based on the altitude of the kids playing. I've seen offensive changes from motion to dribble drive, and that it's not just particularly girls programs, it's the boys programs doing the same thing and the girls programs as well. So it's like the whole offensive mindset has kind of evolved a little bit. Defensively, I think we've seen more pressure defense, kids who can really run the floor, put ball pressure on, get into passing lanes. And that's what I love. I've always been a defensive minded coach, and I love when kids can get down and just dig in and come up with steals and make other teams uncomfortable. And I appreciate a good defensive zone against us, although I don't like our turnovers as much, but I just like that kind of game. So I think that the competitiveness and the girls are so much more athletic. And don't get me wrong, we've had great players in the past, but I see a lot of nice athletes. And right now there are a lot of girls starting to play at higher levels outside of high school, which is fantastic to see. And Mackenzie Holm is doing great. Anna DeWolf, all of them are competing. Even the Archibald kid from Kennebunk is doing great things at Providence. So it's really nice to see the evolution of girls basketball and the attention that these kids are getting, and their hard work is paying off. So I've seen that come leaps and bounds over the years.
Coach, you alluded to a few minutes ago that the female coaches tend to stick together. And, one thing I've noticed in recent years, it seems like that number is growing, which I think is great. I mean, you look at sports like field hockey and girls lacrosse, where the majority of the coaches are female. Do you feel like is there some headway being made in the female head coaching ranks, in your opinion?
We hope so. A bunch of us have gotten together, and I know some of you have talked to Amy about the collaboration that we're a part of in terms of promoting more females in sports, not even just as a head coaching ranks, but even as officials, and allowing them to have that confidence in order to step into these positions and feel comfortable. It's always nice to have that bond and relationship with another coach. And I've been fortunate that um, I've always been able to have that camaraderie with a lot of the coaches in, let's say, the KVAC. I'd been in the KVAC for years, so I knew them. And even though there have been coaching changes or I changed schools, the coaches were the same. So you build those bonds. But it, it is tough from time to time, and we tend to try and figure out how to promote the sport in the best manner that we can and try and get these young ladies to aspire to do more than just play the game or to figure out a way to give back to the game they love, whether it's even softball. I mean, you still see lots of male coaches in softball, but girls play that sport in high school all year long. So, how do we get more of them involved in if that's the sport they love? So hopefully a lot of the things that we're doing with our women's in coaching group, we can promote that and get that message out. We had a great training and conference in September. So it's nice. I've been around a long time, and when I started, there was just a handful of us that were head coaches, and now there's more. So it's good to see.
Definitely, it's great to see, and it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us, Jeannine, from right from the bus to the studio, as it were.
Yes.
Good luck the rest of the way. Jeannine Paradis
Great.
from Biddeford High School girls basketball.
Thank
you,
you, guys.
Jeannine.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, we will now move on to Athletes of the Week, starting with Marina Bassett from Cape Elizabeth, Waynfleet, South Portland girls hockey. She scored twice in the second period to help her team rally from a 2-0 deficit and beat Chevers, Old Orchard Beach, Kennebunk, Wyndham 4-2 on Monday. Then on Wednesday, she scored 2 more goals, including the winner in overtime in a 5-4 win over Lewiston. Michael, that was a huge win over Lewiston, the previous #1 team in our Varsity Maine girls hockey poll, and beating Chevers, another top team. Things are looking good for this Cape Elizabeth, Waynfleet, South Portland girls team, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you really couldn't ask for a better week. And, they weren't in the top spot when the week began, but that win over Chevers. And I think Chevers is, for the past several weeks, it kind of looked like they were the team to beat in the South region, but getting that victory was big. But that pales in comparison to what they did yesterday. They had lost to Lewiston 7-0 earlier in the regular season. They were down some kids, including Bassett, for that game. And just being able to go toe-to-toe with Lewiston yesterday, I think, would have been encouraging enough. But they rally from 4-2 down in the third. They tie it up. Bassett ties it up, and then she wins it in overtime. Just a great individual effort. Kind of brought the puck, skated around, brought it around the net, and tucked it in before the goalie could react. So all of a sudden, here you have Cape South Portland Waynfleet atop the South Region heels, and that's going to be a really interesting tournament when that starts, because you've got 4 or 5 teams in the South, also including Scarborough and Falmouth and York, that are really going to make a run here. I think Lewiston's the clear favorite in the North, but I think in the South region, that girls hockey tournament is going to be a lot of fun to follow.
Yeah, a couple big wins for the Cape Elizabeth, Waynfleet, South Portland girls as this regular season for girls hockey comes to a close very, very soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Tegan Pelletier from Oxford Hills boys basketball. The Vikings sophomore standout continued a strong season with 24 points in Tuesday's 70-52 win over Chevers. Wyatt Grondin from Scarborough boys hockey. Grondin scored 3 goals in Scarborough's 6-2 win on Monday against the Marshwood, Trape, Sanford, Noble Nighthawks at Dover Ice Arena. Scarborough improved to 9-3. Emily Eastlack, Rangel girls basketball. She filled the stat sheet in a 73-50 win over Forest Hills, scoring 21 points with 10 assists and 5 steals. Jess Dow from Thornton Academy girls basketball. Dow scored 28 points in a 68-55 win over Falmouth on Friday, then added 18 in a 58-50 win over Massabesic on Tuesday. Andrew St. Hilaire from Greeley boys basketball. St. Hilaire made 7 of 8 free throws and scored a team-high 20 points in Greeley's 51-41 win over Yarmouth on Friday. And then he added 19 points in the game-winning free throw with 2 seconds to play in a 53-52 win over Wells on the night before. Hunter Gibson, Poland boys basketball. Gibson put up 30 points, including 12 free throws in a win over NYA on Friday. A day earlier, he scored 26 points in an overtime loss to Lake Region. John Shea from Edward Little boys basketball. Shea scored the 1,000th point of his career in a 65-39 home win against Scarborough on Friday. So congratulations on that milestone to John. Elsa Freeman from Deering, the freshman soccer standout, was the only player from Maine to be chosen to participate in the U.S. Youth Soccer Olympic Development National Training Camp last weekend in Tampa, Florida. According to Soccer Maine, Freeman is just the third player from Maine to earn a spot at the camp in the last 10 years. Jason Reynolds from Winslow boys basketball. Reynolds scored a game-high 33 points and grabbed 12 rebounds in the 66-55 win over MCI. Dave, Ellsworth seems to be getting all the attention in Class B North, as they should since they're undefeated, but Winslow is kind of hiding in the weeds and could make a run there, couldn't they?
They are, yeah. They're 11-3, and they've won. They're kind of gaining momentum right now. They've won 5 out of their last 6. Reynolds is one of 2 bigs that really play a role for them between himself and Antoine Okoye. They're both 6'4" forwards who really bring it for that team. They pride themselves in defense. In their wins this season, they've been giving up around 45 points per game to their opponent in their victory. So they pride themselves in the strong zone defense, or man defense, I should say, sorry, with some zone elements away from the ball. This could be a team that could make some noise in the playoffs and during the tournament. Like you said, Ellsworth is a tough team up there at the top. But, yeah, Winslow could be one of those teams that could surprise come tournament time.
You can always count on a Ken Lindelof coach team to play defense, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wrapping this up with the West Duffy, St. Dom's, Gray, New Gloucester, Winthrop, Monmouth girls hockey. The Gray New Gloucester senior scored a hat trick on senior night in an 8-0 win over Greeley on Monday, and she added an unassisted goal in the Saints 5-2 loss to Edward Little on Tuesday. Jace Bessie, Spruce Mountain boys basketball. The freshman scored 30 in the unbeaten Phoenix win over Carabec on Friday, and then he had 10 points in a 41-38 win over Winthrop on Tuesday, and 16 points in Spruce Mountain's 1-point win over Madison last Wednesday. Sierra Carson from Oxford Hills girls basketball. She had 21 points in a 65-27 win over Deering, then had 22 in a 49-48 overtime win over Chevers, avenging an earlier loss to the Stags. Chevers had an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter of that game. And finally, Natalie Seitz from MCI girls basketball. Seitz scored 19 points to lead the MCI Huskies to a 72-52 win over Winslow. So congratulations to all of this week's Athletes of the Week. We have polls. You can find these on varsitymaine.com. They are voted on by sports writers throughout the Maine Today media family. Starting with boys hockey, number 1, Edward Little. No surprise, they're still undefeated, and they get all 6 first-place votes, followed by number 2, Bangor, number 3, Messalonskee, number 4, Greeley, and then number 5, South Portland, Freeport, Waynfleet. Girls hockey, Cape Elizabeth moves into that top spot. Cape Elizabeth, Waynfleet, South Portland, I should say, with 4 first-place votes. Lewiston, despite the loss to them in the overtime the other night, still picks up 2 first-place votes. Chevers, Old Orchard Beach, Kennebunk, Wyndham is at 3rd. Mount Ararat, Lisbon, Morse, Lincoln Academy is 4th, and Scarborough is 5th. We talked about it a little bit, Michael, but that girls' tournament's going to be something else, particularly in the South.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, I think, 5 teams that, I mean, maybe won't come out of the region, but there are 5 teams that are capable of winning at least one game. And I think there's the potential for an upset. You know, York knocked off Scarborough the other day. It seems like they're playing really well right now. You know, Falmouth is a team that's had some very competitive games against those top teams. So while Lewiston looks like the team to beat in the North, the South's going to be tough. And I think, you know, Lewiston looked at things very positively after that loss yesterday to Cape Waynfleet, South Portland, that, you know, sometimes a loss at the end of the season is not a bad thing. And I think that got them refocused. They also got to spend time down at True Ice Arena where, you know, the regional finals and the state finals are going to be held this year. So, you know, I think we haven't heard the last of Lewiston, I guess is how I would summarize that.
No, definitely not. They're a team that seems to be there year in, year out. Boys hoops, no surprise at number 1, it's Nokomis for the second straight week, and for the second straight week, they get all 8 first-place votes. South Portland is at number 2. Number 3 is Brewer. Number 4, Edward Little, and number 5, Oxford Hills. But Dave, we're probably going to see some movement around the top here because number 3, Brewer, lost in overtime to Skowhegan, who is kind of sneaking up in the North. We've talked about that. Nokomis Brewer 1-2, but Skowhegan's a strong number 3 there.
They are. They're right there at number 3. And like you said, they beat Brewer tonight. That's a big win. They needed a win like that, even though they certainly have a strong record at 13-3. They kind of needed their 3 losses. They had 2 losses to Nokomis this season. They had 1 loss to Brewer. a win like this tonight really gives them a shot of confidence going into the tournament. Big win for them at the right time, and certainly this could shoot them right up come tournament time.
Okay. Finally, in the girls basketball poll, we have another number one. It's an old number one. Oxford Hills moves back in with a win over Chevers. They got 5 of the first place votes. Number 2, Skowhegan, creeping up. They have 2 first place votes. Number 3 is that Chevers team. They still have 1 first place vote, followed by Brunswick and Gardner. Mike, this looks like it's shaping up like we've kind of talked about all year. Double A is going to be a really strong tournament and fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, it's certainly top heavy with Oxford Hills and Chevers, and they've played 2 phenomenal games now. The first meeting down here in Portland, I was able to cover that game. Chevers pulled that one out at the end, and then Oxford Hills with that dramatic comeback the other night. So basically, it's been a wash, and you got to figure there's a good chance that Act 3 is going to happen down here at the Cross Insurance Arena in the regional final, and what a terrific matchup that would be. And in the South, you suddenly have the Scarborough team, which I think kind of snuck up on some people earlier this season. They're really playing well right now. Gorham struggled a little bit, and you got teams like Massabesic and Thornton Academy that are going to be in the mix too. So I think there might actually be more competition in the South when all is said and done than the North, because I just think Oxford Hills and Chevers are going to set themselves apart, even though there are some other good teams up that way.
Yeah. Now, we're coming up on the end of the regular season. It's next Thursday, the 10th, and I was just looking at it today, just at basketball, not looking at boys ice hockey. But there's not going to be as many teams as who would like who get in the full 18-game schedule. Looking at the boys basketball, every region, I'm hoping that the heel points were up to date when I looked at this, because 19 teams have played 12 or fewer games.
Yeah.
Vinyl Haven's only played 7. North Haven's only played 8. Rangeley's only played 10. Those are schools that aren't going to get in a full schedule. And on the girls' side, it's 28 teams that have played 12 or fewer games. And again, Vinyl Haven with 7, Islesboro, North Haven with 8, Rangeley with 9. Guys, I guess this is just the way the season's going to go. With you try to get in as many as you can here in the last week. Dave, you're going to have in Central Maine. The Gardner girls are going to play a doubleheader on Saturday against 2 different teams.
We're going to have some Iron Lady basketball come Saturday. Mike Gray announced on his Twitter, I think it was earlier today, that they will play this Saturday. They will take on both Camden Hills and Messalonskee back-to-back. I believe it's the Camden Hills game that'll be 5 o'clock, and then the Messalonskee game that's 6:30. And this is leading into a big week for Gardner as well. Gardner actually is lined up to play against Skowhegan next week, and as well as Lawrence. So 2 of the top teams in the conference they'll have to play against after pulling off this doubleheader. This is going to be a tough week coming up, and this is kind of where we're at, right? In trying to battle cancellations this season.
If I'm the Messalonskee girls, I'm going up to Camden Hills and saying, whatever you do, send this game to quadruple overtime, exhaust them, because we want to just be able to run them off the court. That kind of leads into games that we're looking forward to this week. There's a big game in boys ice hockey on Saturday, Scarborough at Bangor. Scarborough's a team that kind of gets a win here or there and then takes a step back. And then Bangor, meanwhile, a solid number 2 behind Edward Little in Class A, kind of looking to see what Scarborough does against another tough team making the long trip up to Bangor. And then we have wrestling regionals this weekend, guys, I know the KVACs are Saturday. Michael, what are some of the things you're looking forward to seeing in the upcoming days?
Well, the end of the regular season for basketball brings some of the great rivalry matchups. And, next week we'll have Deering and Portland squaring off, and then Portland turns around and plays South Portland. And certainly a lot of big heel points at stake in those kind of matchups. And I believe next Wednesday we're going to start the girls hockey playoffs. So we're going to get right into postseason action before basketball even ends its regular season. The girls hockey playoffs are going to get going. So it's going to be a lot happening over the next 3-4 weeks, and it's going to be a lot of fun to get into.
Dave, in Central Maine, what's something you're looking forward
to? Basically all of Gardner girls basketball this upcoming week, but also on the boys' side, good matchup with that surging Skowhegan team. They'll have a good match against Coney this upcoming week. Coney is the number 4 seed right now in that A North, and they're 10-5. So that'll be a good battle with the 2 of them. I like that Winslow team that we had mentioned before in B North. Have a good challenge with Mount View. These last few games, they picked up a nice win over Maranacook the other day. They're 9-5. They're the number 6 seed in B North right now. That could be a nice little it's certainly a big test for Mountain View, but it could be a nice test for Winslow as well. And then in C South, I've got good old fashioned rivalry battle between Winthrop, who's number 1, they're 11-3. We'll be taking on Monmouth Academy, who's 7-3. They're the number 5 seed in C South right now. They have not faced each other during the regular season. Their original matchup earlier in the season was postponed, so this will be their one matchup here, and it's always a good one, and it should be a good one.
A lot of good stuff coming up this week. I mean, a lot of good stuff coming up this week because everyone's just scrambling to get in games. All right, remember, a reminder, you can check out everything on varsitymaine.com, pressherald.com, sunjournal.com, forecaster.com, centralmaine.com, timesrecord.com. If I missed something, I'm sure I'll hear about it. That's it for Varsity Maine this week. For Dave, for Michael, for Coach Paradis, I'm Travis. Thanks for joining us.
Everybody.